There has been a lot of changes when it comes to consumers all the way from the beginning. People wanted sedans. They moved on and say they want luxury sedans. They moved on and say they want full-size SUVs, cars like the G-Wagon and even the bigger brother like the LX470. Those cars were never meant to be performance SUVs. But because people were crazy and they wanted more power, they wanted more interesting stuff, they forced automakers to even turn the G-Wagons into powerful V8s that will smoke out these normal cars on the road. But that didn't last, because recently there has been a new group of people, young enthusiasts, young professionals, young guys who want a mix of both a sedan and an SUV in one package. And that is what gave birth to now what we have today, subcompact SUVs, crossover SUVs. And the reason why I'm telling you all this is because today I'm in one of those powerful crossover SUVs that money can buy in 2025. The newer version of the Audi SQ5, 2018 onwards to 2024. And this, brothers and sisters, is one of the most capable SUV that money can buy today, both in terms of performance and even in terms of just driving it on your daily errands. But what exactly has changed between the former generation and this current generation that is standing next to me? Very few things, by the way, which are very, very important, especially on the exterior. One is they deleted the fog lights. In place wakakuwekea hii hapa, and it's also active, so it allows air in to make this car cool properly. We have an Octa design signature Audi grille. Do we need to talk much about this? No, you know this. It looks like a baby Q7. Then you have the SQ5 badge. Hii pia tulikuwa now the previous gen, which makes this car look fantastic and fabulous. Coming to the headlights, you get now the new matrix LED. The former one didn't have matrix LED. So this one is very nice in terms of visibility at night. And something that it does, it has auto beam, and it's also active. It means if you take corners, it takes corners with you, and it can reduce its brightness for the oncoming traffic, which is very dope. So chomi watu macho, which is fantastic and fabulous. Now coming to the side profile, one thing I'll tell you is there's a bit of an increasement in terms of length. So we have an extra 1 inch on the side profile of this car from the front to the rear. And that will translate to two things. One, a very good cabin space, and also better practical space at the rear. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. But the design language of this newer, the TY type of Audi SQ5 is quite subtle and streamlined. The other one was a bit aggressive, but you still have your flowing aggressive lines all the way across the car. And then we have the V60. Remember the other one had the V60 badge, but the engine had a supercharger. Kwa nini? I don't know. But on this one, we have the V60, but now we have turbochargers. We'll talk about what is under the hood, because that's where there's a lot of changes done to this particular car. Coming down, you get your signature 6-port brakes at the front and 4-port at the rear. Then you have your nice alloys from Audi. Na hii brake, unaona iko na red, and it has an S on it to just remind you that we are not playing around. This car has the power, and if you have power to go forward, then you require power to stop. Talking about ground clearance, very dope. This is an SUV, remember, so ground clearance is one of the most important elements of a practical SUV. All the way to the rear. Oh, I need to talk about suspension before I come to the rear. Now, this is where things start getting a bit different. So on the other previous model, we had coilovers and air suspension as an option. On this one as well, you also have coil suspension and dampers and air suspension as an option as well. But the difference between the previous gen and this gen is that the dampers on this one, which are wrapped in a coil, are adaptive, meaning you can actually soften them or make them stiffer for performance in case you want to go on a drag race or you want to nyama guys on the strip. Then that is what you do. This is the same thing you get on the VW R, Golf R, that we had here before. So on the R itaitwa DCC, dynamic chassis control. On this one is just adaptive dampers. Okay, they didn't have a fancy name for that, and we will see that when you get at the interior. Now coming to the rear of this car, again, subtle differences. One of them being the rear taillights are LED, hapo sawa, and they have what we call dynamic lighting or blinking, meaning ukieka hapa sasa, I need to do it, just stay there so that I do it, you guys can see how it looks. So that's the dynamic thing, you know, it moves in like, it's not static. The previous one ilikuwa na bulb, ilikuwa na LED, but it's just static. This one is dynamic, meaning it goes, when you look at it from the rear, when you're following this car, it looks epic and awesome, especially at night. So that is one element that has changed, which is dope, okay? Something else that has changed is, of course, the practical boot space that you get at the rear. So in the previous model, we had 540 liters of practical boot space. On this one, we actually have 550. So we have 10 more liters, which translates to something extra in case you're storing something here. There's nothing much talk about the practicality of this car, in that you also have a huge subwoofer just underneath this cover, which makes this car sound nice. Coming down, this is where it gets a bit bad and good at the same time. You have fake exhaust tips covered in chrome appendages. And this chrome again is just reminding you that this car has a bit of luxury going on. But the real exhaust, iko hapa chini, facing down, another one here facing down. And it sounds cool. I just don't know why they didn't make it come out of this. But the good thing is from 2021, the new one that is coming in, you can get that as an option. So haitakuwa imeangalia chini kama ya Mercedes. It'll actually be coming off that those two chrome appendages. Out of that, I think the next thing we need to do is go and check out under the hood. And I'm going to give you a technical breakdown of exactly what are the changes that were made on the engine, transmission, and the entire setup to make this car a superb, both practical, day-to-day driver, and as well a performance car. Under the hood of this Audi SQ5 is one very legendary conqueror of an engine, and that is the EA839, previously known as the EA837, which ran a supercharger on the previous SQ5. But on this one, we are running a turbocharger. It's just not a turbocharger. It's actually a twin-scroll turbocharger. I wish they were two, but Audi gave us one because they said one is enough. And indeed, it's enough because the entire setup is capable of putting out 350 horsepower and 500 Newton meters of torque. That is like 30 more Newton meters of torque than what we had on the previous setup. But the big question that you guys are asking, it's a hot V, meaning the turbo is right in the middle of the engine, just like we had on the Audi S4. But the big question is, why did they switch from a supercharger to a turbocharger, right? And that is where we get into business. Let's analyze what are the benefits of running an EA839 versus running an EA37. And does it make a value proposition? Does it improve, one, your tuning capabilities? Does it improve your fuel economy? Does it make a more versatile car? Let's get down to business. Any guy who's coming out to buy an SQ5 has two things in play. One, he needs a practical SUV that he can daily and use. And the second thing is he needs performance. So does this version of the SQ5 offer that? And first is the obvious. What is under the hood? And you guys have been wondering, just recently, there has been a competition. I can't remember the name, That's how bad I am. But what I know is I saw an SQ5, this new SQ5, 2018 to be precise, from Sino's Tuning. Ilikuwa inaonyesha watu mambo mbaya sana kwa hiyo truck. And today we are going to get down to details on why did we not get that excellent performance from the previous gen SQ5, and why did the guys from Sino's wait until this particular platform for them to do what they did on that truck. But first, the obvious. So the previous generation ran the engine that we used to refer to as the EA837. But what we have under the hood is an EA839. It's technically the same engine, but the only difference is this one is running a turbocharger. It's a hot V. Remember the review of the S4? If you haven't watched, link iteko hapa, go watch it, because it runs the same engine you'll get in the S4, the newer one as well. So this one is a hot V. The turbo is right in the center of the engine. It's a V6 upper sour, and it puts forth 350 horsepower and 500 Newton meters of torque. And those figures, the 500 Newton meters of torque, is an improvement by 30 in comparison to what we had in the previous SQ5. So those are the obvious things that you get if you're buying this car, okay? So let's talk about the non-obvious, the things that most reviewers will not tell you. The first unique element about this car that makes it a formidable performer and having an ability to be tuned and perform excellent on the track is the fact that this engine has been made lighter. And how so? The previous one had a cast iron block and an aluminium head, but this one is aluminium, both at the block level and the head as well. And that means this engine is lighter. And number two, coming down to the ECU, we're still having the same location of the ECU, just as we had on the S4. Very available, very accessible. But this ECU is running the new Bosch platform. That is so easy and so interesting for tuners. That's why I believe Sino's guys went with this car. So it is running the platform that we call the MG1, which is the newer platform of the Bosch ECUs, that allows you as a tuner to just make awesome changes to the ECU and make this engine able to produce more power. Okay, so that is thing number two. Let's go to thing number three. The EA837, the previous gen on the SQ5, ran what we call direct injection. On this one, you have dual fuel injection system. So you have still direct injection, but they also introduced port injection on this one, meaning the same problems you had on the previous EA837 of carbon buildup, you won't be having that. On this one is slightly reduced. Not slightly, it is actually reduced on a high scale, meaning better efficiency and better performance as well. So that is thing number three. Thing number four is they've also changed the design of your chain. So the chain was moved from the front. In previous generation SQ5, the chains were right at the front, which made it easier for you to do the change in case the time for doing the changes go there. So they moved the chain from the front to the rear, which makes it a bit harder. So ukienda kufanya timing guide on this car, you will pay a bit more because it's more difficult to do that. Previously, we used to bombard these things here and just access the chain at the front. But right now, you actually have to take the entire engine out for you to be able to do a timing change on this car. Hey, imagine all those things. Now, you guys are wondering, what else have I left out on the changes that were made on this engine? There's just one more, a very simple but very important change. On the previous EA837, we had variable valve timing, peke yake, okay? But on this one, we have variable valve timing and we also have variable valve lift, mbili. Audi calls it AVS, which is so dope. And do you know what that does? What it does, it enables this engine to have cylinder deactivation, meaning fuel efficiency is improved on this engine in comparison to the previous, which is bananas and bonkers. Ile ingine ilikuwa na very bad fuel economy, so we were averaging anything around 8 kilometers per liter, and that is on a good day. On a bad day, you will do 6 comfortably. On this one, you can average anything around 10 to 12 kilometers per liter, and that is courtesy of those two systems. Tuko chonjo, are we good up to there? Okay, the last thing, I promise is the last one, okay, for guys who are looking into tuning. The compression ratio was also improved. Previously, we had 10.3 to 1. Now here we have 11.3 to 1, which means performance. And the last one, I promise. So whereas the previous, best with all the things we've talked about, remember the previous gen had a supercharger, and you guys know the mechanism of a supercharger. So a supercharger is belt driven and it is connected to the engine pulley. So what happens is it provides another extra load to the engine, which makes the engine a bit more heavier in terms of rolling the internals and just giving you power. And that is the reason why tuning on this engine and fuel economy was not very good. So on the previous engine, you could only get a maximum of 400 kama umejaribu sana for 50 HP, and that meant that you'd done a lot of upgrades on that car to get that type of power. But on this one, because you're running a turbocharger, in fact, it is said, it is speculated that you don't need to do any mechanical changes on this engine. You can actually just do an ECU and down pump, and you can push this engine to give you 500 HP. Imagine how bonkers that is. And that's why Sinos walikuwa wanafanya mambo na watu kwa barabara with this car. So those are the technical changes that have been done on this engine, because you know, as conversation, we have to give you both the simpler and the technical as well, so that if you bang this car, you know what you're looking at. In overall, what does that translate? It translates to a car that has two DNAs. It has a fuel efficient daily running DNA, but when you need it to perform, you also know you got it. Remember the 1-inch extension I told you that has been put on this newer platform? That translates upper cabin space here. I told you about the rear practical boot space, but that translates here as well. And something else that Audi has made on this car, which is dope, is the ability for you to do this. So you can actually move your seats mbele. It doesn't stop there. You can also recline it. So there is a reclining button here which can make you see that. Yeah. Or if you want more space, you can just do that. It gives you a bit of flexibility when you're sitting at the rear. But I'm welcomed with quite soft Napa leather interior with the exposed stitching. These are things we are used to seeing on a Mercedes-Benz, but you also get it on the Audi. Okay, here you get two cup holders that are hidden quite conveniently. If you're not using them, unafunika and you put your hand there, which is dope. You can also not open up here to access the rear. So that one is something you need to know. Away from that, it's a climate zone, so meaning the guys at the rear get the opportunity to also adjust how cold or how hot they feel upper. The only problem is you can only do that for both of you. So if this guy is feeling cold and I'm feeling hot and I need to be cold and he needs to be hot, unfortunately you can't do that. But the guys at the front will have the ability to do that. And what else welcomes you into the SQ5 better than this panoramic sunroof? Just look at how long and wide it is. Cuts all the entire roof line. Paka huku nyuma. Yeah. Mercedes, I'm talking to you. Mwacha kutupatia panoramic sunroof inaishia hapa, please. We need it all the way to the end. And something else that you get, of course, you get a bit of nice touches on carbon fiber finish on the doors. You can get these as an option, or you can get piano black finish apple. So it depends on which trim you're going for. But the good thing with this particular one, we get that. Then kwa mlango you get very nice soft touch material. Hii ni Alcantara. Very nice, soft the touch. Legroom ona iko sawa, headroom iko sawa, and you can adjust it conveniently if you like it, which is dope. So let's check out what changes have been made at the front, and then we can take this car on the road and see if we can nyama some few guys. So when you come to the front of this car, this is where a lot of changes were made, and you guys will stick around to just confirm that. But first, Napa leather exposed stitching with both for the passenger and the driver lap support. So it means you can actually move this thing at front so that you support yourself when you're driving long distances. And something else that is special about the seats is they have an S badging. And anytime you have an S badging on any Audi, it means they're giving you something special. S is for special. So you also have an S here. Now you can get these seats with two options. One, you can get them with the massage, heated and cold. But hapa, we're just playing with heated. There is no massage and there is no cooling going on. But we can heat them, which is a bummer for our country because we are generally very hot. But let's forget the seats. But they're very nice, bucket-like, with good bolsters that just tuck you in quite well. But let's talk about what has changed. Number one is the infotainment system. So initially, the previous gen had a baked-in screen kalikuwa kadogo sana inside the dashboard. But this one, you have a floating one that is not touch. Unfortunately, it's not touch, but it supports Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, which is dope. Hapo tuko sawa. Change number two is on the digital instrument cluster. On this one, you have the virtual cockpit, which is awesome. It can do a lot of things, including displaying your maps while you're driving. And it has some few gimmicks here and there that I will show you when I'm driving this car. But it's one of the best things to happen to Audi. And of course, being a performance crossover SUV, Audi have decided that they're not going to give you a lot of luxury and expensive stuff in this car. The luxury ends with the seats and maybe the infotainment system, which by the way features the new MMI technology, which is quite intuitive, quite easy to use. I always say, Audi, wakifuatwa na watu wanaitwa Mercedes, And kidogo squeezy Range Rover, they have come along that way as well. They provide the best infotainment system that you can get on the market. So that is something I can give to them. But back to the build quality, you get a lot of soft plastic materials hapo hivi. Kila mahali ni plastic. The only thing that screams of luxury this car, the seats. Everything else is Alcantara kwa mlango kidogo. But again, the question is whoever buying this car really worried about those things? Okay, if you want those things, just buy yourself a Porsche Macan. Okay, because it is a closer sister to this car, but it offers a bit of more luxury. Plus, they belong to the same. You get what I'm saying? So if you want luxury, get that. Let's talk about something else that has changed. Of course, I told you earlier it's a tri-zone, so you get dual zone climate controls hapa mbele. You get your auto parking. This car can literally park itself. You have your hill descent. Then you have a button that can turn off this electronic infotainment system. Now, something else that is so dope is the gear shifter. Previously, tulikuwa na ile, nakumbuka ilikuwa tu hapa. It was huge. It didn't look sportish. But now we have a gear shifter lever that is inspired by an aeroplane. So right now you can do your thing, okay? You have auto hold and you have an electronic parking sensor. That is the only thing I hate about this car. Why this one? Why? Storage compartments, decent glove compartments, which actually very huge. It's not decent. Then you have another one here where you can store your phones, and you have your connections auxiliary, your connection to the infotainment system via Android or Apple CarPlay. Then you have two cup holders up hidden quite conveniently, so if you do that you won't see them. And then you can put your phone here as well, but if you pull them back then it reveals to you. The way you control this infotainment system is by this trackpad. There's like a trackpad here which has letters, and you can do your thing, which is Audi has been doing this. And then you have your button here as well to help you just select. It is one of the most easy to use infotainment system on the market. Finally, something else that you get on this car that is an option is, of course, the steering wheel is telescopic. So it means you can pull it, you can lower it down, but you do it via manual lever. And unlike many cars, of course, it's malfunctional. Who put your cruise controls here and blah, blah. Audi wameweka yao hapa, just like Mercedes-Benz. So you have a nice lever here that will have you, set up your cruise control and your paddle shifters. I wish they would have made bigger paddle shifters. This one look tiny for the SQ5. But again, that's what Audi does for you. But if I was the one buying this car, I will definitely do something about this. I believe the aftermarket that you can buy and clip on this just make them huge and better when you're shifting, because this car shifts and the noise it makes pale nyuma, even though it has fake exhaust. I'm telling you, let's drive this car and let me confirm why this car is one of the best you can buy right now in the market. Driving the Audi SQ5, this particular one it's quite interesting. It's a car that has two personalities. So one of them is, it's a car you could cruise, just enjoy your normal rides, without having problems. The only thing that I feel is slightly on the higher is the road noise. Nasikia road noise kidogo inaingia. But away from that, it's a perfect cruiser. Remember, I told you it has adaptive suspension. So right now, I'm driving on efficiency, which is kinda the same thing you'll get with comfort. So the damping is quite soft, the car is riding quite smooth, and I'm just enjoying my calm drive. Okay, that is one side of this car. Now the second side of this car is when everything now has to go bananas, and I have to go down here, and then I can now go into dynamic. So when I go into dynamic, everything changes. The steering firms up a little bit, my throttle becomes harsh, my transmission is already in sport, even the sound has changed, and then now here so now the car becomes agile. Now the car wants you to do things that you don't want to do. You're telling it calm down, but the car is telling you, know what, can we go? And I can tell you for a fact that torque is being delivered way earlier. In fact, Audi claims that we get the torque as early as 1,300 RPMs, which is quite dope. And that is something that you get to enjoy when you're buying the SQ5. And let's talk about something that is quite critical. Something, again, that is so unique and different between this car and the previous generation. And that is the Quattro all-wheel drive system. So this car has a Quattro all-wheel drive system. But it's not your kawaida Quattro all-wheel drive system, because the previous gen had what we call a full-time Quattro all-wheel drive system that has a slight bias. inaweza peleka nyuma 60, it gives you at the front 40. Now in this case, it is different because what you have here is what we call Quattro Ultra. Now what is Quattro Ultra? They are taking the behaviors of VW and putting on the Audi now, especially on this SQ5. So Quattro Ultra, technically what it means is this car is front wheel drive, and it only kicks in the rear when you need it. It's more of, it functions like a Haldex all-wheel drive system. For me, that is the only bummer on this car. But the good thing is, when you snap her into sport, she becomes now a different beast. So the Ultra thing stops working, and this car now can be able even to send 60 at the rear and 40 at the front, and sometimes even 40 at the front and 6 at the rear, depending on how you want this car to be driven. But why is Quattro Ultra so important in this setup? It's important because when you're doing normal costing, this car is one of the most fuel economical car you can get in the market right now. One that has a 3000cc turbocharged engine that can give you 354 HP and 500 Newton meters of torque, averaging around 10 to 12 kilometers per liter. That's dope, right? Guys, tell me that's dope, right? So that setup was done for guys who want to cruise and just enjoy very good fuel economy and still have underneath a car that can turn into an instant beast. So that is something that you know that is quite unique and different between the previous gen and this particular gen. Okay, they were trying to make a car that is good for both on-road use, easy saddle driving, at the same time a beast. And I can tell you for a fact this car is a beast. So let's go and do a bit of 0 to 100. Let me get this car into position. We pull 0 to 100 and confirm whether this car provides a good base for tuning, performance, and also, you know, you can just nyama a lot of Golfs on the road, and even these Mercedes Benzes, right? I know it does. It does. What was GLC 643? Yeah. Hii nasikia ndo baba yao. But the doctor that can take this car down is actually the BMW X3. I'm not sure. I've not done the M40i. If you have the M40i, please, I beseech you, give me the B58 goodness. I want to try and see exactly what it will do against this car. But I know for sure the M40D will take this car for its money any day, anytime. But these are proper car. On paper, these are proper car. On road, it's a proper car. It's a car you can daily. It's a car you can take on the track. It's a car you can do a lot of dangerous things with. But for now, let me get into position. Let us pull 0 to 100 and just put things down to the numbers so that we confirm. Niache kuongea story mob, right? Let's do this. You guys are ready? So driving modes of this car, you can get how many driving modes? So we have off-road, we have efficiency, we have comfort, we have auto, dynamic, and individual. Individual is when you want to customize and just make this car your own feeling. But for now, took up for 0 to 100. So I'm going to put her in dynamic mode and everything is in sports. And so we are going to do it. Let's do it and see exactly what this car can do. The good thing with this, unlike the Golf R, hakuna launch procedure, is we hammer down the brake, hammer down the accelerator, and we get our numbers. But first, I need to put my draggy. My draggy is on. Let me put her in the right place. You guys are ready to do this? Let the coast be clear, because this one requires the coast to be clear. You guys are ready? Here we go. Woo! We are already at 100. What kind of a beast is this? Come on, give me the numbers. Give me. Things are falling over. Eh? Yes! Yes! There is an improvement. So we've gotten 0 to 100, and this is verified in 5.6 seconds, which is quite dope. This car is rated at 5.1, so getting 5.6 out of this car is pretty dope and awesome. You know, so many factors at play. So let's just keep it. Nasemanga Kenya ikikuja kama imeendeshwa mahali for 8 years, na bado ikuja hapa itupatie closer by a microsecond to the number that the manufacturers announced, it means it's a good thing. So let's talk about value for money and just have a discussion, a candid one. Do you really think this is a car you're buying because it makes sense financially? Or is it a car that you buy just like the Golf R because it does what the manufacturer says it does? Let's talk about value for money. So let's talk about value for money. Value for money? Really? Guys, value for money? This is not the type of car that you buy and you're considering value for money. Just like the Golf R. Those are not cars you buy for value for money. These are cars you buy because you're looking for something specific. And I believe guys who are planning to buy this car are looking for performance and an SUV that can give them a bit of practicality. So that is what the Audi SQ5 gives you. How much will this car set you back? If you buy this car from Bellafield Autos, Kimbia Pale, look for a guy by the name Martins. He's the one selling this car at 6.5 million Kenya shillings. Remember, the Golf R was 4.3, eh? A difference of how much? That is around 1 point something million. But again, what you get here is a 3-liter V6, tunable, capable, on an SUV package. Is that not a value proposition that you guys need to? So whoever is buying this car, I don't think we need to discuss value for money. If you don't want to buy your kawaida boring Q5, then this is a step up. This is for people of culture. This is for people who understand performance and practicality at the same time. I've been your host, Papa Scoff himself, Ibrahim Toloye. If you love this video, we are on the home stretch to 200,000 subscribers. And it's my hope and my wish that you'll give me a subscription and leave me a comment. And I'll see you on the next one.